What would it feel like to be free? Do you constantly try and make changes in your life but always slip back into old ways? I used to be constantly frustrated by my lack of willpower. What I never knew is that there was a reason why I could not control myself, and that there are processes that you can follow to regain your freedom. I interview some of the most knowledgeable and compassionate minds talking about breaking all varieties of bad habits and how to actually live a joyful and fulfilling life. Listen to the show and hit subscribe to free yourself from the shackles of the mind. And if you find some benefit, please share it with a friend and let's make the world a better place together. Welcome to the Break the Chain podcast. I'm here today with Stephanie Crean. It is a huge honour to have Stephanie on the show. 4 years ago, I heard about your family's story. It's a story that is well known all over New Zealand because of the brave stand that your father took against what he believed was right. This unfortunately ended tragically in his murder. And there was also mention of taking your life too, just at the age of 2 years old. This story was so inspiring that it was turned into a movie called Resolve. This story is not only amazing because of your father's bravery, but also because of your profound capacity to love and to forgive, which sent shockwaves through the hearts of so many people. As I previously mentioned, I heard this 4 years ago when my friend Alan or Chariadas spoke about it, and he was giving a talk on forgiveness. Forgiveness is the cure for anger. And it had such a profound impact, almost the most out of anything I've ever heard. It was one of the times in my life where I think that one really, went completely straight to my heart. I was crying. It was amazing. And I've never forgotten. And for 4 years, I've been thinking I really, really would love to speak to you about this. And finally, it's happening. So I'm very happy about that. I'm also feeling a huge amount of responsibility because I know you've never spoken about this on a podcast before. It's really cool. So thank you so much. And I'm wondering if you would feel comfortable. First question, what has it been like for you to live with this your entire life?
Well, I guess I've had lots of different emotions. Since a child till now, it's been quite hard. But I think that throughout it all, it's challenged me to try and be the best I can be, I guess, with how the circumstances were. And just every day, trying to make sure that I'm keeping true to my own self and my own heart, and kind of blocking out all the noise that's around me, or has been around me my whole life. Also making sure that I am true to what I feel towards the situation, not how others have told me that I should feel. So that's been tricky, and I did keep how I felt about it quite hidden for a while because I knew that it may upset some people. So a bit tricky.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And one of the things that's really clear is that you have, from reading that letter, is that you really have spoken from your heart and done what you believe to be, true and right. And I do remember reading and hearing about the actual you having to do that, you having to really be extremely courageous and brave in making the decision to write the letter. And were you feeling that that was going to be a difficult thing to do? Were people aware that you was going to actually do that?
I don't think that anyone was really aware of how I felt or that I would ever really put anything out there. I didn't actually want to put anything out there, but when you have like news reporters or newspapers writing how I may feel or how my family may feel or anything like that, I just kind of felt the urge to put out there how I felt. And also because I knew that the movie was coming out about my dad. So I wanted to put out there almost like a peace letter to say that even though this movie's out there and a lot of people may have been like, oh wow, that's so horrible, that's so sad, I wanted to almost come in and be like kind of the in between of, okay, but I feel at peace, and I wanted others to maybe also feel like a bit of peace too, because it is quite an overwhelming movie and story. I guess I just wanted to be the peacekeeper at the end of the day.
I can't even imagine what it's like going through something like that, as that being something, you know, I watched the movie in preparation for this, you know, to just get a bit more of the context. If anybody else wants to do that, the movie's called Resolve. If anybody wants to put a bit more context to what we're talking about here. And I was just sat there thinking, this is really different for me. This is not just a movie. And it just like made, you know, I'd be sat there thinking like most of the time when you watch a movie, it's just like you're just watching something, it's entertainment. And I was sat there very aware that this is your life and what that must be like for you and your family to have. I mean, what was that like for you, for that going on and that being something that was so deeply difficult for you in your own life to be just kind of like out there as entertainment almost?
Yeah, it felt a little bit scary when I heard that it might be going out, but I'm pretty sure that they were going to go ahead with it, whether or not there was any type of help from the family, and so they were just going to go ahead with whatever they wanted to do. Because they had the okay. But when I watched it, for me, other people don't realize it felt like, like actually seeing my dad again, like back from, I guess, the dead. So for me, it was quite hard seeing that is my life and that is what was going on when I was like a young child. So, and it was hard to watch, even to see what my mum went through. Because of that movie, it became pretty real. It became pretty raw. I've only watched it once because it is pretty raw. But yeah.
I did. You know, I was thinking about that as I was watching it. Like, I wondered if you had watched it, and then because I think you said to me you didn't really know your dad at the time. Do you feel like you got to know him a little bit more through that movie?
Yeah. Well, apparently I was always a daddy's girl. I loved going for drives with him. Apparently, I was spoiled by him. He loved me dearly. And I went everywhere with him. But when I did see it, I guess I felt a sadness, like a missing for a father. But yeah, I did. Seeing that side of him made me realize why I have my own side of me. In a way, I think his strong-headed opinion can sometimes be something I have also. Yeah.
The courage to me stands out as well as being a trait that certainly runs through both of you. Yeah, and as I said before, the courage is front and center in that letter. Um, like for you to, like it seemed really risky. Did you feel like it was a big risk to write that letter? Was it?
Definitely, yeah. But I actually wrote it at like late at night. I felt an urge come to me to write the letter.
Mm. What do you think was the motivation? Where do you think that was coming from?
Mainly probably because I wanted to have my own voice in the matter of everything that was going on and social media and newspapers, and yeah, I just wanted to have my own voice.
I do remember trying to remember. I probably won't remember exactly what was said, but there being, something along the lines of anger and resentment were causing many difficulties that were actually making it so that you weren't able to kind of live now and have a life because everything was still revolving around the past, and there being a need to let go of this so that everybody can actually move on and have a life. Was that something along those lines?
Yeah, I guess growing up, I did see a lot of anger and resentment and negative emotions around what happened. And so I knew that it would probably bring up more emotions with the Resolve movie. But also in my heart, I didn't want to be anything like that. Um, I chose at a young age that I didn't want to go that path or that direction. And so, yeah, I did do the letter so that it would smooth it out for, I guess, um, everyone that ends up watching it, everyone who's involved. Yeah.
When did you realize that forgiveness was going to be the solution? It's kind of like, like why forgiveness? Where does that come from? Who, like what point was it that it came to you that it's like, that's the thing that I actually need to do? And why was that?
Um, well, something in me knew that I had to be the bigger person and the one that chose the opposite. But also, I guess I was brought up in church, and Jesus was a big part of my life and is still a big part of my life. And I find Jesus inspiring, how he was, how he lived. So that was one of my morals uh, from being a follower of Jesus.
Hmm. Yeah, it's something that's come into my life more and more, is the wisdom of the spiritual wisdom of the world that's there. Because I was thinking, like it's certainly from the tradition of both Christianity, also from the Vedas, and from the traditions that I also follow in my life. Actually follow both of those teachings, and they both are pointing to that forgiveness is the cure for anger. And it seems, it's such a profoundly hard thing to actually do when you're in that situation, isn't it? Because, like I've never been in the situation that you've been, but in the times when I've had people have made transgressions against me and wronged me, it feels like it feels like the wrong thing to do. Sometimes it feels like they don't deserve it, that's kind of like, and when we deal with that, there will almost always be one person that will say, I will never ever forgive them. And I imagine that there's people who are going to be listening to this now who are going to say, I will never ever be able to do that. What would you say to those people?
I think that I understand and would acknowledge their pain truly and genuinely, that someone has hurt them and maybe even crossed some boundaries, or just broken their heart really, in some way. I think that everyone goes through different emotions. Like, I don't actually believe that someone can just like magically forgive. You go through that cycle of feeling anger and grief and or sadness and all of those things. I think that people will always on their life journey deal with situations or people where they have to come to the decision of, am I going to try get through this and forgive this person, or am I going to hold on to this and let it actually destroy me, and destroy like my heart and my spirit? Like, who do I want to be? How do I want to deal with this? I guess at the end of the day, it depends on who you want to be and how you want your legacy to also be, you know, of other people remembering, wow, that person, I can't believe that they could get through that. I guess I think striving to be the best person as possible is maybe a life journey that some people would like to take, and they want to, they don't want to be walking around with such heavy weight. And it's more freeing to let that go. I guess you'd be surprised how free you would feel letting those things go. Yeah. It's a hard journey. And I'm not going to say that it's easy. Yeah. But it pays off.
There's some quotes that pop up and spring to mind as you're talking then, and one of them is not forgiving someone is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That's one of the things that comes to mind, and that talks to that feeling of having that weight lifted off, that burden lifted off. What have been some of the other things, like the benefits of forgiveness? What have the other things that you've actually experienced in your own life from doing it?
I would say it definitely helps me to be a stronger person, and have a more positive mindset on life. And I think that when new hurdles come along, or maybe new hurts come along, you're able to push through that easier. Yeah.
It's so interesting because I kind of there's just a feeling that's like I'm trying to put myself in that situation where I've got someone's done something really bad and I have to, I'm going to forgive that there would be an assumption that I'm a weak person if I've done that, like in other people's eyes, that they would think you're weak for forgiving. I mean, what do you think that there's some truth to that people think would be a weak thing to do?
I guess some people would believe that it is a weak thing to do, but I don't really believe in that. I guess the person who walks away from situations are more brave. I guess it depends on the situation of. I guess if you're in some type of situation, the best thing to do is to choose how you're going to react to that. And it is having a stronger mindset to say, well, I'm not going to choose that path, because everyone goes the other way, following what the world says you should, that you're weak if you do this, or what maybe your friends and family say.
Yeah, certainly to me it seems like one of the most courageous and difficult things to do. And so another saying that's come to mind is, it's like forgiveness is one of the hardest, one of the greatest gifts we can ever give away. And it's one of the hardest things to do. And it's usually given to those that deserve it the least. It's such a profound and amazing thing to do. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was looking through kind of like interventions for anger and resentment, and people who are struggling with those things and negative emotions which come from when someone's done something wrong to you, when someone's wronged you in some serious way. And forgiveness isn't usually kind of at the absolute front and center of dealing with those things. Usually they're quite often focused on the symptoms. And I think that one of the reasons might be for that is because, you know, you can't, like, timing's a really important thing, isn't it? With forgiveness, it's kind of like, it's not something you can go, okay, we're going to forgive today. And then everyone that comes along, you know, goes, okay, let's do it, you know, because it's a really difficult thing, like timing wise, isn't it? You said you was at like 2 a.m. or something in the morning when the time was right for you, like the middle, like, you know, like it was the time. I mean, do you think that the timing's really important with this?
With forgiving?
Yeah.
I guess you just know it's time, like, you know, in your like soul. I don't really, I guess.
I can appreciate it'd be a really difficult thing for someone who's still in, you know, really in that stage of anger, if it's still really fresh, still really raw, to be hearing that, you know, that forgiveness is going to help. And I can imagine that's still going to be really difficult in the early stages of doing that. And yeah, I guess it's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be different for everyone. And I guess at the end of the day, we're all human. We're definitely not perfect. So we just have to try our best.
Do you think that it actually gets at the very core of the problem, though? You know, like really deep in your heart?
The core of, do you mean resentment and anger? And
yeah.
Forgiveness?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do believe that. It feels, when you do end up forgiving, it almost feels like something has kind of like released from you. But obviously in life, things are going to just keep coming up, you know, that we're like, oh, I have to assess this. And it ends up becoming a journey of forgiving and yeah, but I do think that it's definitely beneficial. Yeah.
It does seem like it gives you an ability to, you know, move on from the past continually rather than keep being dragged backwards into the past. It's like if you're able to continuously forgive, then you're able to actually keep moving forward. But it's like every time if that comes up, it kind of drags you back to the past each time if you're not able to move past those things. There's many things in life that come up where people do things wrong to us, unfortunately, isn't there? So yeah, no, I really like that it says, you know, it made you a lot stronger, a lot more positive. Had to have a better outlook on life. So would you mind if I read out some parts of the letter which I thought was the parts that really touched my heart?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. So this is things that you've written. So, to the men that murdered my father, I have always kept to myself but I forgive them as they have families that were split and broken too. You know, like just to be in that situation and to still have that much compassion and to be thinking about these people and the situations that they've been through, to me was so far out. I'm taking into consideration that there's a bigger picture than just the pain my family has been through, because they have been through it too. May they have peace one day and be blessed for all that has been robbed of them. I respect my father for his stand. I look up to him as my role model, to be a better person every day. And that's what I'm doing, standing up and telling my story. We are all God's children. To all 4 men and the gang that were involved in the murder of my father, Christopher Crean, my name is Stephanie Crean, and I forgive you for murdering my father. I forgive you not because what you did in murdering my father was right, because that was not right. I forgive you even though there was mention of shooting me at only the age of 2. I forgive you so that you may have peace, and I too, so that our families may have peace, and so that the community may have peace also, so that the nation may have peace, because that is what is right. I believe that with justice comes peace. Whether or not you are changed men, I forgive you. My dad was not a perfect man, but he was a good man. You two are not perfect men, but you can be good men. You may not be able to start a new beginning, but you can start a new ending, a good ending. I also am not a perfect person, and I also have done things in my life that I am not proud of. I also cannot change my beginning, but I can choose to have a better ending. I also can choose to be a good person. And what life has taught me the most is to love your enemies. I have my own blog that I write stories for people to read, and I focus a lot on my stories on forgiveness and love, to love your enemies. I also know this, that unforgiveness and hate will not change any circumstance or person until people understand that we were put on this earth to love. Until then, there will be crime, there will be hurt, there will be war. I forgive you all because I want you to start following yourselves. I want you to start forgiving yourselves. And once again, I'm not saying this because what you did was right, but because whatever love you have left, I hope that you use that love to change yourselves. Change the ending to your story and use that to help change others. Because if you don't, who will stand up in your shoes and tell your story? I hope you use it for good, and I hope you use it to love, to give. I hope you use that love to give to your families, because I hope that one day we all understand that love is the only thing that will give us peace. Because forgiveness is the only thing that is going to set us free and change everything about our life's journeys. However, whether or not you are changed men, I still forgive you. If you do not seek out the hopes I have for you, I still forgive you. I am proud of my dad for standing up for what was right. One day I hope your families will feel the same way I do when they see you change the ending of your life's journey to an ending of men that are not perfect men, but were good men. There's no words to describe if this is the first time You have heard this letter. Like the first time I heard this was just so profound. It's like there's no words to describe it. It felt, like when you were writing that letter, there was divine inspiration in those words. That letter to me is like a manifesto for life, for actually changing the world. Like honestly, that's how, because to me, this is why I say I'm so honored, because it's like to actually meet somebody who was able to speak those words and do that in practice in life, given the circumstances, is a really, it's not a normal thing. I really don't think so. So I'm inspired, have been inspired. And that's why it's actually a fantastic resource that you've given us, because I've been able to pass that on to others who have, work with people who've been through terrible things as well. Quote unquote, unforgivable things. But we know that they're actually not in reality, but certainly those people, don't deserve forgiveness. But I think one of the things about the quality of love is that it is given, even though in spite of the fact that may not be deserved. Love allows us to do it anyway. And then the power of it, the impact that can actually have on people, it's like, it's just so amazing how many people's lives touch. I mean, just the way, the impact that it does just goes to prove that it is something very special and not normal. Because when you hear these things, it's like we cry. And why, why is that touching us on such a deep level? Is there anything that you would like to, is there anything for you that's come up there that you would like to speak about?
Yeah, well, I guess when I was very young, I felt quite passionate about the bigger picture of everyone involved, and I felt like there was hurt on both sides of the situation, and I just felt like I needed to put out there like some love and put out there that type of forgiveness, because I guess being on that forgiveness journey is also forgiving ourselves and loving ourselves. Like, we are going to constantly make mistakes, and even at the end of the day, it can be hard to forgive ourselves. But we can never be like the best people we can be if we don't forgive ourselves and give love to ourselves. I think at the end of the day, that's what can create not very happy people. And that deep down, we all need to be offered a bit of unconditional love. Maybe that will give a chance to people to want to change and do better, because maybe not all of us have actually experienced that unconditional love and forgiveness. But I guess that's what I follow in my spiritual practice. Someone who offered me choice, someone who offered me unconditional love, someone who offered me forgiveness, someone who offered me that safety to come to them and still offer me all of that, no matter what I've done. And that doesn't mean that it's okay to just keep making mistakes or purposely doing things. But it also gives you that awareness. But it's like a lovingly awareness to our actions and to our choices in life. Yeah.
I totally agree. That it's the most profound agent of change. It can change the most stubborn person. It can crack the hardest heart open. I've seen it do it. I have friends who have been hardened criminals, like really big time. And, you know, one of my friends on a podcast, he talks about it, my friend Matthew. And he had been a hardened criminal his whole life, you know, in and out of prison. And he, he was at rehab, and he told me he was still trying to be the king of rehab. He was always trying to be the boss, trying to be the king. And he's like, and then he realized that one day he's like, I'm trying to be the king of rehab. And he's like, oh man, that's sad. I need to give it up, you know? And he tried to sort his life out, and he was in a program, somewhere, I don't remember the exact, situation. And one day he totally lost it with the boss of the thing. And he realized that if him screwing that up meant that he went back to prison, it totally ruined his whole life. And he decided in that moment that he was going to end his own life because he just couldn't deal with it. And he basically was making plans for that. He was in the car park. He was about to, you know, just storm off and do it. And this lady came out, you know, and I think it was the wife of the person that ran the program. And this woman just came up to him and said, Matthew, it's okay. We forgive you, you know, like sincerely. And
wow.
He said for him, it was the first time in his life that he'd actually experienced because at that point he was, you know, that was the end of his life. To come and experience that forgiveness in that moment, which to that, you know, as a Christian lady again. And she said, you know, and that was probably quite easy for her, who's someone who probably lives by that, you know, and no big deal. But him, he said he just like decades of of emotions just burst out of him in that moment. It just opened, like cracked his heart open, his hardness of his heart, and he just bawled and cried, and you know, like, and that hardened criminal gangster mentality that he had, it just kind of like broke away, like just that, like in and that, it broke it open and just totally changed his life. And he's like, the way he, you know, he's so sweet now. He's so sweet. It's mind-boggling, like how he could have been the way he was before. Scary guy, terrifying, and now he's so soft and so sweet, and change is possible. What changes have you seen that have come from you writing this letter? Like, what happened? What's been some of the, you know, what's been the impact?
Well, I've actually had a lot of people tell me that they were in total disbelief, and I guess it made other people start challenging themselves. And actually, the letter is a constant reminder to myself even. It challenges me when things come up, because, you know, if I'm forgiving this big thing, what am I doing about these little things? So I think that it challenges people constantly, but it also, I think it softens people's hearts when they hear it. And yeah, total disbelief, but yeah. Yeah,
it's amazing how sometimes those small things can feel like such big things, and those little resentments, and they pile up. And, you know, and if anybody's in a relationship, they'll know it's hard, you know, and we have to become expert in forgiving and tolerating, and, you know, and working together and all these things. And yeah, definitely. And yeah, I totally agree. So it's a good resource for many things. Sorry, was there anything else that
No.
from the previous thing? So yeah, I think we've gone through the bulk of the main questions that I wanted to ask you, and I'm so super grateful for you coming on the show and talking about this. And I know certainly I'm from the UK, and Christianity is, I think, from history and misunderstandings, and I really think people do not understand Christianity at all. I think that, you know, many of the people who are practicing it don't understand it, or it's just like a thing that other people do, and they don't take it that seriously. And me and you and I were talking previously about The Chosen, and how it's a multi-part series about the life of Jesus Christ, and it is just like, because, you know, like I like to watch things, and I do think it's, you know, often when people make things, I think they don't, you know, they Hollywood it and they change stuff and they do, but I've, you know, from my understanding is they've tried to keep this as absolutely to the book as possible. It's just like, you just get a sense of this love and compassion and this person that is a perfect example of what love is manifested. Like it's a perfect example, and you just watch. I don't like. I just cry all the way through this thing. Like I've watched it 4 times, and I just, every time I watch it, it changes me, and I'm just like, it's so amazing. I never thought that I would say that growing up the way that I did, you know, with my addiction background. And one of the things that I have come to notice, because I talk to people all around the world who've suffered from addiction and other issues as well, and spirituality is a component that at some point enters somebody's recovery journey in one way or another. And if it doesn't, people generally don't seem to get past these resentments, you know, and these resentments, and there's a bitterness and an anger that remains. That's what I've seen from talking to hundreds of people, you know, that this spirituality enters into people's lives and gives them what you talk about is a positive outlook on life and a strength, a sense of spiritual strength that it takes to get beyond those things. Now, you know, that's my from what I've seen and observed with my eyes, that's not I believe that's just like what I've observed to be, you know, like a really, really common phenomenon. So I highly, strongly suggest that people check that out, because it brings it to life, doesn't it? It's like one of the things that I think is it's so like the idea of Christianity I had is it's not a rebellious thing. It's kind of like quite a conservative thing. Like the rebelliousness of Jesus was absolutely mind-boggling to me when I've actually watched it. Like, he was going against everything. It was so it was so amazing, because it's like absolutely the opposite of, you know, of conservative. And we used to have a phrase in England that we used to call clean shirt. These were people who were a bit boring and a little bit stiff, and
Oh my
but
God.
yeah, no, it's the absolute opposite of that. And so I found it amazing and inspiring. I've actually got a few quotes. Was anything you'd like to speak to that, any of those points, or?
Well, I guess like I call Jesus the original G because he is he was out there. He, like, people don't like me to say things like this, but he's definitely, he's a gangster. Like in the way he was towards things that weren't just, but he was like a loving gangster. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm massively inspired by his example and the you know, and reading about what happened. I've got a few quotes here from empirical studies from CBT and from the Bible and from the Bhagavad Gita as well, which talk about forgiveness. So forgiveness has been noted as a way to resolve anger and other transgression-related negative emotions, which in turn leads to various psychological and physical health benefits. So transgression-related negative, that's basically when someone's done something wrong to you and it makes a negative emotion. So they're saying that it's, you know, it has various psychological, physical health benefits. That's the scientific point of view. Empirical studies have shown that forgiveness decreases anger, anxiety, and depression, and increases self-esteem, and hopefulness for the future. Conversely, studies also show that unforgiveness leads to bad health. For me, I wasn't very surprised about this, but I don't know if some people might be. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna declares that forgiveness to be a godly quality, conducive to liberation, and contrasts it with anger and harshness that characterize the ungodly and keep them in karmic bondage. So it's like in the Bhagavad Gita, it really puts those two things as opposites. Forgiveness is like the opposite to anger. It literally like puts them on a spectrum there. And one of the things that it's in the Lord's Prayer, and God, I hope I don't get this wrong, but forgive, Lord, forgive others as I forgive those who offend me. Help me to. I'll forget it. Oh my God, you might have to help me out here. But it basically asks for me to
who have persecuted me.
Yeah. So ask God to forgive us as we forgive others. So that first it comes, we have to forgive others. And then if we're able to do that, we will be forgiven ourselves. But we have to give it to receive, which, I thought that was really interesting. It says forgiveness prevents the poison of bitterness from taking root in the heart. It doesn't, and the big thing that you have spoke about through your letter is that it does not in any way condone the actions that somebody else has done. It doesn't make what somebody else has done right, you know. Yeah,
and it doesn't mean that you still can have boundaries when you have forgiveness. It doesn't mean that you can't keep yourself safe when you forgive others. You're actually creating maybe even more of a safety net when you're forgiving others, but you gain that confidence to also have those boundaries. So if people have wronged you in life, you can still have that. I think your journey through forgiveness too is probably needing a really good support network, someone you can talk to, because you need to let that all out of your body and your heart. And so that's really important on your forgiveness journey, to have someone you feel safe with to talk to about those things. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Is there anything else in this? I mean, the boundaries thing, that seems like a really important thing to mention, is that just because you forgive someone doesn't mean that you need to hang out with them, doesn't mean that you need to be friends with them, go around their house, see them, that's not what that means, is it?
No, it doesn't mean that. Exactly. Like, it means that you can still have your own boundaries and safety for yourself. Definitely don't go out and just be like, oh, I'm forgiving, so I have to go do that. I have to go hang out with them or something like that.
Is there anything else on this subject that you think would be important for people to know or to think about in relation to all the things that we've been talking about?
I guess I would say that even though I have written this letter, and even though I have forgiven the situation, that I'm definitely not a perfect person, and that in life, when things happen, and then you choose that decision, things might continue to still happen. And if you do struggle with mental health at all, forgiving one situation may not completely heal, like your depression straight away or anything that you're struggling with. But it's important to not give up on yourself. forgive yourself for any mistakes you make in the future. And like I said at the ending of the letter, is that it's not about being the perfect person. It's about choosing to have a good heart, if that's what you want to do with your life. At the end of the day, everyone has a choice who they want to be. And I think that, I just wanted to put that out there, that life is a journey. It's a journey of a lot of things. And spirituality, and even being a follower of Jesus, it doesn't mean that you are going to be constantly blessed with the perfect life. I think that challenges actually can bring the best out in us, or not the best. Yeah. And that's just trying our best to make the right decisions and choices.
That was really clear. I get, especially from watching The Chosen and understanding that those who decide to live a spiritual life and to live a life in alignment with God's will, is that actually things can get a lot harder. If you're serious about, having a spiritual life, things can get a lot harder because you're choosing to not live a material life, not to live a nice, comfy life for your own pleasure all the time. Things can actually get a lot harder. But in that, there is, a peace that comes to the heart, a peacefulness of the heart, and feeling like that's actually better than being comfortable sometimes. I've found that in my own life, I'm much happier with peace of mind, peace of heart than often what I thought was going to be happiness, the road to happiness that I thought would work. I tried that for many years of my life, trying to be happy with just trying to figure it out by myself. And I gave that one up because I didn't have many good ideas. So, so thank you so much for coming on the show today, Stephanie. I'm so grateful that you came, and I'm very happy, and I think that this episode is going to have a profound impact on a lot of people's lives. You are a great inspiration. And you have given us permission to share your blog and the post that you wrote previously in your My Life's Journey blog, which you said the things that you wrote some time ago, which you said you're not currently doing anything with it, but you've left it there so that people can read it. So we will share the links to your letter and your blog in the show notes. So thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Listen to the show and hit subscribe to free yourself from the shackles of the mind. And if you find some benefit, please share it with a friend, and let's make the world a better place together.